The contrast between feeling alive and taking my life away immediately hooks the reader. Every morning started the same way for Ryan. Wake up at 6, shower, toast with black coffee, and then the 20-minute walk to the train station. He was 32 years old and worked as a graphic designer for a small advertising company downtown. Nothing special, nothing extraordinary. Just another guy trying to make it through the week so he could enjoy his weekends. The 7:15 a.m. train was his ride. Always had been for the past 3 years. He knew that train like the back of his hand. Third car, window seat on the left side, 4 rows from the front. That was his spot. Some people might think having such a routine was boring, but Ryan found comfort in it. In a world that felt chaotic and unpredictable, his morning commute was the one thing he could count on. That Monday morning in September felt like any other. The weather was turning cooler, and people were bundled up in light jackets and scarves. Ryan boarded the train at exactly 7:14, walked to his usual seat and settled in with his phone. He had a playlist ready, his earbuds in place, and was prepared for the 35-minute ride that would take him into the heart of the city. The train pulled away from the platform, and Ryan leaned his head against the window watching the suburbs blur past. At the next stop, about 5 minutes into the journey, more passengers got on. Ryan barely looked up. He was scrolling through news articles, not really reading them, just passing time. Then someone sat down beside him. This was unusual. The car was maybe a quarter full. There were at least a dozen empty rows, plenty of space for everyone to spread out and enjoy their own seats. Yet this person chose to sit right next to him. Ryan felt a flicker of annoyance but didn't say anything. Maybe they liked the window view from this particular spot. People had their reasons. He glanced sideways for just a second. It was a woman, probably in her late 20s or early 30s. She wore a flowing dress with a floral pattern that looked like something from a vintage shop. Her dark hair was pulled back loosely, and she carried an oversized leather bag that she placed carefully on her lap. What struck him immediately was the scent. Jasmine, definitely jasmine, mixed with something else he couldn't quite identify. It wasn't unpleasant, actually rather nice, but strong enough to notice. Ryan went back to his phone, trying to ignore the fact that someone was sitting in his personal space. The unwritten rule of public transportation was simple. If there are empty seats, you take one far away from other people. Everyone knew this. Yet here she was, close enough that he could feel the warmth radiating from her presence. A few minutes passed in silence. Ryan was reading an article about the latest phone technology when he heard her voice. "Excuse me, is this train going to Central Station?" He looked up, pulling out one earbud. Yeah. It stops there. About 25 minutes from now." She smiled. It was a warm, genuine smile that made her entire face light up. "Thank you. I'm still new to the city, and these train routes confuse me sometimes." "No problem," Ryan said, offering a polite smile in return before putting his earbud back in. He hoped that would be the end of the conversation. He wasn't rude, just not in the mood for small talk, but she spoke again. "I'm Sophia, by the way." Ryan paused. It would be rude to ignore her now. He pulled the earbud out again. "I'm Ryan." "Nice to meet you, Ryan. Do you take this train every day?" "Yeah, Monday through Friday." "Work commute. What do you do?" "Graphic design." "Nothing too exciting." "Oh, I think that's exciting," Sophia said, her eyes showing genuine interest. "Creating things, bringing ideas to life visually. That takes real talent." Ryan felt a small surge of pride. Most people glazed over when he mentioned his job. "I guess when you put it that way." "What about you? What brings you to the city?" "I just moved here a few weeks ago. I'm still figuring everything out. New job, new apartment, new life, you know." "Big change," Ryan said, relaxing a bit. There was something easy about talking to her. She had this way of listening that made you feel heard, like what you were saying actually mattered. They talked for the rest of the ride. Sophia asked about good neighborhoods, restaurants worth trying, places to avoid. Ryan found himself giving her detailed recommendations, surprised by how much he knew about the city. She laughed at his jokes, asked follow-up questions, and seemed genuinely interested in everything he had to say. When the train pulled into Central Station, Ryan realized with surprise that the 35-minute ride had flown by. He stood up to leave, gathering his bag. "This is my stop too," Sophia said, standing beside him. They walked together through the crowd, making their way to the exit. At the top of the stairs, where the paths split in different directions, they paused. "Thank you for the conversation," Sophia said. It made my morning much better. Same here, Ryan admitted. Good luck with settling into the city. Maybe I'll see you on the train again. Maybe. I'm on the 7:15 every morning. She smiled that warm smile again. Then I hope we meet again, Ryan. They went their separate ways and Ryan walked the remaining blocks to his office. He felt energized in a way he hadn't in a long time. There was something about that conversation, about Sophia, that had lifted his mood. He caught himself smiling for no reason as he rode the elevator up to the 5th floor. That evening, when Ryan got home to his apartment, his girlfriend Lisa was already there, cooking dinner. They'd been together for 3 years, living together for the past 18 months. She was a teacher at a local elementary school, kind and patient and steady. Their relationship was comfortable, predictable. How was your day? Lisa asked, stirring something in a pot on the stove. Good. Met someone interesting on the train this morning. Lisa glanced over her shoulder. Oh yeah? Just a new person to the city. We talked about neighborhoods and stuff. No, that's nice. You don't usually talk to people on the train. I know. It was kind of random. They had dinner, watched some television, and went to bed at their usual time. But as Ryan lay there in the dark, Lisa, sleeping peacefully beside him, his mind drifted back to the morning, to the conversation, to Sophia's smile, to the way she'd listened so intently. He told himself it was just a pleasant interaction, nothing more. Tomorrow would be back to normal. His usual routine, his usual quiet ride, his usual life. But as he finally drifted off to sleep, he found himself looking forward to the morning in a way he hadn't in years. Maybe she would be on the train again. Maybe they would talk. Or maybe it was just a one-time thing, a brief moment of connection in an otherwise ordinary day. Either way, something had shifted. Ryan couldn't quite name it yet, couldn't quite understand it, but there was a small flutter of anticipation in his chest, a curiosity about what tomorrow might bring. The jasmine scent seemed to linger in his memory, and as sleep took him, he could almost smell it again, sweet and mysterious, unlike anything he'd experienced before. The alarm would go off at 6. The routine would continue. But somehow Ryan knew that his morning commute would never quite feel the same again. The next morning, Ryan woke up with an odd sense of excitement. He went through his usual routine, but there was an energy to his movements that hadn't been there before. He found himself choosing his clothes more carefully, making sure his shirt wasn't wrinkled, checking his reflection an extra time before leaving the apartment. Lisa noticed. You're in a good mood this morning. Just slept well, I guess, Ryan said, grabbing his bag. Want me to make you breakfast? No time, I should get going. He kissed her on the cheek and headed out the door, walking a bit faster than usual toward the train station. As he approached the platform, he scanned the crowd without realizing he was doing it. Looking for someone. Looking for her. The 7:15 pulled in right on time. Ryan boarded, walked to his usual seat and sat down. He tried to appear casual, looking at his phone, but his attention was on every person who walked past. 3 stops went by, 4. No sign of Sophia. Maybe yesterday had been a one-time thing. Maybe she'd found a different route or a different time to travel. Ryan felt a surprising pang of disappointment. Then, at the 5th stop, she appeared. Sophia stepped into the car and her eyes immediately found his. That same warm smile spread across her face. She walked directly to him, and without hesitation sat down in the seat beside him. Again, there were plenty of empty seats throughout the car. Good morning, Ryan. Hey, Sophia. Good morning. I was hoping I'd see you again, she said, settling in. Today she wore jeans and a simple sweater, but somehow she made it look elegant. The jasmine scent was there again, wrapping around him like an invisible cloud. How's the city treating you? Ryan asked. Better now that I'm starting to figure things out. Actually, I wanted to thank you for the recommendations yesterday. I tried that coffee shop you mentioned near the park and it was perfect. Ryan felt pleased. The one with the blue awning? Yeah, that place is great. They fell into conversation easily, picking up where they'd left off the day before. Sophia asked about his work, and Ryan found himself telling her about a project he was working on, a campaign for a local restaurant chain. He rarely talked about work in detail with anyone, not even Lisa. But Sophia asked questions that showed she was really listening, really understanding. You light up when you talk about design, she observed. I can tell you love what you do. I guess I do, Ryan said, realizing it was true. I mean, there are frustrating days, but yeah, when a design comes together, when you nail exactly what the client was trying to express, it feels good. That's how life should be. Doing something you love. What about you? What's your new job? Sophia's answer was a bit vague. Something about consulting, working with different companies, flexible schedule. Ryan didn't press for details. Some people were private about their work. The ride seemed even shorter than the day before. When they reached Central Station and stood to leave, Ryan felt that same reluctance he'd experienced yesterday. He wanted to keep talking, keep listening to her voice. They walked together through the station again, and at the split in the path, Sophia touched his arm lightly. "Same time tomorrow?" she asked. "I'll be here." Good. This became their pattern. Every morning, Sophia boarded at the 5th stop and sat beside Ryan. They talked about everything: books they'd read, movies they'd seen, childhood memories, dreams for the future. Ryan learned that she loved old jazz music, that she was afraid of heights, that she had a younger brother she was close to. He shared things about himself he rarely discussed with anyone, opening up in ways that surprised him. By the end of the second week, Ryan was arriving at the platform earlier, making sure he didn't miss the train, didn't miss her. He started looking forward to the morning commute in a way he never had before. Those 35 minutes became the highlight of his day, but changes were happening, subtle ones he didn't quite notice at first. He felt tired in the afternoons. Not just normal work fatigue, but a deep exhaustion that settled into his bones. He'd find himself staring at his computer screen, unable to focus, thinking about the morning's conversation, replaying things Sophia had said. His work started to slip. Deadlines that he usually met with ease suddenly felt impossible. His boss, Mr. Chen, called him into the office one day. "Ryan, is everything okay? The Henderson project was due yesterday." "I know, I'm sorry. I've been a bit distracted. I'll have it done by tomorrow. This isn't like you. You're one of my most reliable designers." "I know. I'm sorry. It won't happen again," but it did. Projects piled up. Ryan's attention wandered constantly. During meetings, he'd zone out, missing important details. His coworkers started to notice, shooting him concerned looks. At home, things were changing too. Lisa would try to talk to him about her day, about her students, about weekend plans. And Ryan would realize he hadn't heard a word she'd said. "Are you listening to me?" she'd ask, frustration creeping into her voice. "Sorry, what?" "I just told you about the school play." "Never mind. No, tell me. I'm listening now." But even as she spoke, his mind would drift. To the train, to Sophia, to whatever they might talk about tomorrow. One evening, Lisa confronted him more directly. "You've been different lately, distant. Is something going on?" "No, everything's fine. Just busy with work. That's another thing. You used to hate your commute, always complaining about the crowded train. Now you rush out the door like you can't wait to leave. I'm just trying to get to work on time." Lisa looked at him for a long moment. "Okay," she said quietly, but her eyes showed doubt. Ryan felt guilty, but not guilty enough to change anything. The truth was, his time with Sophia had become the most important part of his day. Everything else, his job, his relationship, his friends, it all felt dull in comparison. By the third week, Sophia started sitting closer. Their arms would touch on the armrest between the seats. When she leaned in to hear him better over the noise of the train, her hair would brush against his shoulder. Ryan's heart would race. His palms would sweat. He told himself it was just friendship, just a connection with someone interesting. But late at night, lying awake beside Lisa, he knew it was more than that. He was developing feelings for Sophia, real feelings, and he didn't know what to do about it. One morning, Sophia showed up looking troubled. "Is everything all right?" Ryan asked. "Just a hard day ahead. Sometimes this city feels overwhelming." "I get that. It took me years to feel at home here." She turned to him, and her eyes were so open, so vulnerable. "Thank you for being here every morning, Ryan. These conversations, they mean more to me than you know. You're the only real connection I've made since moving here." Something in Ryan's chest tightened. He wanted to reach out, take her hand, tell her he felt the same way. But he didn't, he couldn't. Instead, he just smiled. "I'm glad we met." "Me too." That evening, Ryan's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "It's Sophia. Hope you don't mind. I got your number from the business card you showed me last week. Just wanted to say thanks again for being such a good friend." Ryan stared at the message. He didn't remember showing her a business card. Had he? Maybe he'd mentioned his work email and she'd found the number online. "Yeah, that must be it," he texted back. "No problem, anytime." And just like that, their connection expanded beyond the train. Sophia would text him during the day, random thoughts, funny observations, questions about the city. Ryan would respond immediately, eagerly, his phone constantly in his hand. Lisa noticed. "You're always on your phone lately." "Just work stuff." At 9 p.m., client in a different time zone. The lies came easier than they should have. Ryan knew he was crossing lines, knew he was being unfair to Lisa, but he couldn't seem to stop himself. Sophia had become an addiction, a need he couldn't explain or control. At night, he'd lie awake thinking about her. During the day, he'd count down the hours until the next morning's train ride. His entire life had started to revolve around those 35 minutes, and he was too caught up in it to see how dangerous that was becoming. By the fourth week, something had fundamentally shifted in Ryan's life, though he couldn't pinpoint exactly when it happened. The morning train ride wasn't just something he looked forward to anymore. It had become something he needed. One morning, his alarm didn't go off. Ryan woke up at 7:03, 12 minutes before the train was scheduled to leave. He jumped out of bed in a panic, his heart pounding. "What's wrong?" Lisa mumbled, still half asleep. "I'm late. I'm going to miss my train." He threw on clothes without showering, didn't brush his teeth, grabbed his bag and ran out the door. Lisa called after him, confused, but he didn't stop. He sprinted down the street, his lungs burning, pushing himself harder than he had in years. He made it to the platform at 7:14, gasping for breath, just as the train pulled in. Relief washed over him. He boarded and collapsed into his usual seat, chest heaving. Sophia got on at the fifth stop, as always. When she saw him, her face showed concern. "Ryan, are you okay? You look like you just ran a marathon." "Overslept. Had to run to catch the train." She laughed softly. "That determined to see me?" Ryan laughed too, but there was truth in her joke that made him uncomfortable. "Didn't want to miss my ride." "Well, I'm glad you made it." That day, Sophia sat even closer than usual. Their legs touched, her shoulder pressed against his. Ryan found it harder to breathe, his chest feeling tight. He assumed it was still from the run, his body not yet recovered. But as the ride went on, the sensation didn't improve. "If anything, it got worse. Are you sure you're all right?" Sophia asked. "You keep taking deep breaths." "Yeah, just winded from running, but that wasn't entirely true." There was a pressure in his chest he couldn't explain, like someone was sitting on his ribs. He loosened his collar, trying to get more air. Over the next few days, the physical sensations intensified. Every morning when Sophia sat beside him, Ryan felt like the air grew thinner. His breathing became shallow, labored. His heart raced, not with attraction now, but with something close to panic. Yet he couldn't bring himself to ask her to move, couldn't bring himself to sit somewhere else. The texts from Sophia increased too. She'd message him 5, 10, 20 times a day. Always pleasant, always friendly, but constant. Questions about what he was doing, what he was thinking, how his day was going. Ryan felt obligated to respond immediately to each one. His work deteriorated further. Mr. Chen called him in again, this time with a formal written warning. "Ryan, I don't know what's going on with you, but this can't continue. You've missed 3 major deadlines. The quality of your work has dropped significantly. I need to see improvement, or we're going to have a more serious conversation." "I understand. I'll do better." But he didn't do better. He couldn't. His mind was always somewhere else, always on that train, always thinking about Sophia. His relationship with Lisa was falling apart. They barely talked anymore. When they did, it ended in arguments. "You're never here," Lisa said one evening. "Even when you're physically here, you're somewhere else." "I'm just stressed about work. Is that really what this is about?" "Because I feel like you're hiding something from me." "I'm not hiding anything." "Then why are you always on your phone? Why do you jump every time it buzzes? Why do you leave the room to answer texts?" "It's work, Lisa, I told you." "Don't lie to me, Ryan. I deserve better than that." She was right, of course. She did deserve better. But Ryan couldn't seem to give it to her. Sophia had somehow taken over his thoughts, his attention, his entire emotional world. One Saturday morning, Lisa suggested they sleep in, have a lazy morning together like they used to. But Ryan was awake at 6 out of habit, restless and anxious. He knew there wouldn't be a train ride with Sophia. Knew it was the weekend, but his body didn't seem to understand that. He paced the apartment, checked his phone obsessively. Sophia hadn't texted yet, which was unusual. By 9 a.m., Ryan was genuinely worried. Was she okay? Had something happened? What are you doing? Lisa asked, finding him staring at his phone in the kitchen. Nothing. Just checking the news. You've checked it about 50 times in the past hour. Ryan put the phone down, tried to focus on Lisa, on spending time with her, but his mind kept wandering. Finally, at 10:30, his phone buzzed. A text from Sophia, missing our morning talks. Weekends feel empty without them. Ryan's relief was immediate and overwhelming. He texted back quickly. Same here. Lisa saw the smile on his face. Who was that? Nobody. Just a coworker. That afternoon, Lisa went to visit her parents. After she left, Ryan found himself looking at pictures of Sophia on social media, scrolling through her profile, studying every photo, every post. He knew it was obsessive behavior, knew it was wrong, but he couldn't stop. That night, alone in the apartment, Ryan tried to be honest with himself. What was happening to him? This wasn't normal. This wasn't healthy. The way he thought about Sophia constantly, the way he prioritized her above everything else, the physical sensations he experienced around her, none of it made sense. He Googled obsessive thoughts about someone and fell down a rabbit hole of articles about infatuation, limerence, unhealthy attachment. The descriptions matched his behavior perfectly. He was exhibiting every classic sign. But knowing something is wrong and being able to stop it are two different things. Monday morning came, and Ryan was back on that train, back in that seat, and when Sophia sat beside him, despite the tightness in his chest, despite the difficulty breathing, despite every rational part of his brain screaming that this wasn't right, he stayed put. I missed you this weekend, Sophia said softly. Missed you too. Her hand brushed against his, and Ryan felt that familiar surge of conflicting emotions, need and fear, desire and dread, attraction and alarm. Ryan, she said, her voice gentle, can I ask you something personal? Sure. Are you happy? I mean, in your life in general? The question caught him off guard. I don't know. I guess I never really thought about it. You seem like someone who's searching for something, like there's a part of you that isn't satisfied. She was right, though Ryan had never articulated it that way. He'd been living on autopilot for years, going through the motions, following the path that was expected of him. Stable job, steady relationship, predictable life. But was he happy? Maybe, he admitted quietly. There's nothing wrong with wanting more, Sophia said. With wanting to feel alive. The way she said it, the intensity in her eyes, it was like she could see right through him, see all the restlessness and dissatisfaction he'd been suppressing for years. That evening, Ryan came home to find Lisa waiting for him, her face serious. We need to talk, she said. Ryan's stomach dropped. Okay. I can't do this anymore, Ryan. Whatever's going on with you, whatever has changed, I can't compete with it. You're not the person I fell in love with. You're distant, distracted, secretive. I feel like I'm living with a stranger. Lisa, I'm sorry. I know I've been off lately. I can do better. Can you? Because I don't think you want to. I think part of you is already checked out of this relationship. Ryan wanted to deny it, to fight for what they had, but the words wouldn't come, because she was right. Some fundamental part of him had disconnected from their relationship, from their life together. I think we need some space, Lisa said, her voice breaking slightly. I'm going to stay at my parents' house for a while. I need time to think, and so do you. She packed a bag that night and left. Ryan stood in the empty apartment, knowing he should feel devastated, knowing he should be fighting harder to keep her. But all he felt was a strange sense of relief mixed with numbness. He texted Sophia without thinking. Rough night. Her response came immediately. Want to talk about it? They texted back and forth for hours. Sophia was sympathetic, understanding, saying all the right things. Ryan found himself pouring out his feelings, telling her things he'd never told anyone. Sometimes relationships run their course, Sophia wrote. Sometimes we outgrow the people we've been with. It doesn't make you a bad person. I feel like a bad person. You're not. You're just evolving, changing, becoming who you're meant to be. Ryan wanted to believe her. He needed to believe her. That night, lying alone in bed, Ryan realized how far he'd fallen into whatever this was. His relationship was ending. His job was hanging by a thread, and he felt like he couldn't breathe properly half the time. Yet the only thing he cared about was getting through the night so he could see Sophia again in the morning. Something was very wrong. Deep in his gut, Ryan knew this. But knowing and acting on that knowledge were two entirely different things. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur. Lisa officially moved out, taking her things bit by bit until the apartment felt hollow and empty. Ryan went through the motions of his days, but nothing felt real except for those morning train rides. His work situation reached a critical point. Mr. Chen called him into his office, and this time there was no sympathy in his voice. "Ryan, I've tried to be patient. I've given you chances to turn things around, but your performance has continued to decline. I'm placing you on a performance improvement plan. You have 30 days to show significant improvement, or we'll have to let you go." Ryan nodded mechanically. "I understand. Do you? Because honestly, you don't seem present at all. It's like you're sleepwalking through your job." That evening, Ryan sat alone in his apartment and tried to process what was happening to his life. Everything was falling apart. His relationship, his career, his health. He'd lost weight because he often forgot to eat. Dark circles shadowed his eyes from poor sleep. He looked gaunt, haunted, but every morning he was still on that train. Sophia's presence had become even more intense. She sat so close now that their bodies were constantly touching, and the physical symptoms Ryan experienced around her had worsened dramatically. His chest felt constricted like bands of iron wrapped around his ribs. His breathing came in short, shallow gasps. Sometimes his vision blurred around the edges. "You should see a doctor," Sophia said one morning, noticing his labored breathing. "This doesn't seem normal." "I'm fine," Ryan insisted, though he clearly wasn't. But the strangest part was his absolute inability to move away from her. He knew sitting beside Sophia triggered these symptoms. He knew that logically he should sit somewhere else, should skip the train entirely, should break this pattern. Yet when he thought about not seeing her, panic seized him. Pure irrational panic. He tried once. On a Wednesday morning, Ryan deliberately walked to a different car when he boarded the train. He sat down, phone in hand, determined to break the cycle. By the second stop, his anxiety was unbearable. His heart hammered against his ribs. Sweat beaded on his forehead. His hands shook. At the third stop, he couldn't take it anymore. He got up and moved back to his usual car, to his usual seat. When Sophia boarded at the 5th stop and saw him there, she smiled like she'd known he would be. "Good morning, Ryan." The relief he felt was immediate and terrifying. His breathing eased, the panic subsided. He'd never experienced anything like this before. This level of dependence on another person's presence. "I need to tell you something," Ryan said that morning, surprising himself. "What is it?" "I think there's something wrong with me. The way I think about you, about our mornings together, it's not normal. It's obsessive. And these physical symptoms, the breathing problems, they only happen when you're near." Sophia's expression was unreadable. "What are you saying?" "I don't know. I just feel like I'm losing control of my own life." She was quiet for a moment, then took his hand. Her skin was cool, smooth. Ryan, connection is a powerful thing. When two people really understand each other, really see each other, it creates intensity. That's not wrong. That's rare and special. But it's affecting everything else in my life. Maybe those other things weren't right for you anyway. Maybe this is showing you what you really want, what really matters. Her words sounded reasonable in the moment, comforting even. But later, Ryan would replay the conversation and feel uneasy. She hadn't really addressed his concerns. She'd deflected, reframed, made the problem sound like a solution. That weekend, Ryan did something he hadn't done in months. He called his older brother, Daniel. They'd been close as kids but had drifted apart as adults. Daniel was a psychologist, practiced in the city about 40 minutes away. "Hey, stranger," Daniel said, clearly surprised by the call. "Long time." "Yeah, I know. I'm sorry I haven't been in touch. What's going on? You sound rough. I need to talk to someone. I need help." "I'm listening." Ryan tried to explain what had been happening, but it sounded insane even to his own ears. A woman on a train. Obsessive thoughts. Physical symptoms. A life falling apart. As he spoke, he realized how far gone he was, how deep into this unhealthy pattern he'd fallen. Daniel listened without interrupting. When Ryan finished, there was a long pause. "This sounds serious," Daniel finally said. "What you're describing, it's not just attraction or infatuation. It sounds like you might be experiencing a form of psychological manipulation combined with severe anxiety." "Manipulation? Sophia hasn't done anything wrong, has she?" Think about it. She specifically sits next to you every day despite empty seats. She got your number without you clearly remembering giving it to her. She texts constantly, keeping you engaged and thinking about her. She frames your concerns as virtues. These are all classic patterns. Ryan felt defensive. You don't know her. She's been nothing but kind. I'm not saying she's intentionally malicious, but the dynamic you've described is unhealthy, and it's destroying your life. That's a fact. So what do I do? First, you need to break the pattern. Stop taking that train. Change your route, change your time, whatever it takes. Then we need to get you into therapy to understand why you became so vulnerable to this dynamic in the first place. I can't just stop seeing her. Can't or won't. The question hung in the air. Ryan didn't have an answer. Listen, Daniel said, his voice gentle. I'm worried about you. Really worried. What you're describing, it's not sustainable. Something has to change or you're going to have a complete breakdown. I know. Will you come see me? We can talk more in person, figure out a plan. Okay, yeah, I'll come. They set up a time for the following Tuesday. After hanging up, Ryan felt a strange mix of hope and dread. Part of him wanted help, wanted to break free from whatever this was. But another part of him, a louder part, was already planning to be on that train Monday morning. Sunday night, Ryan lay awake for hours. His apartment felt too quiet, too empty. He thought about Lisa, wondered how she was doing, whether she was happier without him. He thought about his job hanging by a thread. He thought about his health deteriorating day by day. And he thought about Sophia, about her smile, her voice, the way she made him feel seen and understood, about the tightness in his chest when she sat beside him, the struggle to breathe, the sense of being slowly suffocated by her very presence. For the first time, Ryan allowed himself to acknowledge a terrifying thought. What if Sophia wasn't the cure for his emptiness? What if she was making it worse? What if the thing he thought he needed was actually the thing destroying him? But even as this realization dawned, even as he understood on some level the danger he was in, Ryan knew he'd be on that train in the morning. He was trapped, caught in a pattern he didn't know how to break, drowning slowly and unable to call for help. Monday morning arrived, and Ryan's resolve to change crumbled the moment his alarm went off. He went through his routine, walked to the station, and boarded the 7:15 train. When Sophia got on at the 5th stop, he felt that familiar mix of relief and dread. But this time, something was different. Ryan was quieter, more withdrawn. Sophia noticed immediately. Everything okay? She asked. Just tired? You seem distant. Did I do something wrong? No, it's not you. But it was her, or rather it was what she represented, what she'd become in his life. An obsession he couldn't shake, a need he couldn't fulfill, a presence that both comforted and suffocated him. Tuesday came, and Ryan went to see his brother. Daniel's office was welcoming, filled with books and comfortable furniture. They talked for over 2 hours. Daniel helped Ryan see patterns he'd been blind to, helped him understand how the emptiness he'd felt in his life had made him vulnerable to an unhealthy attachment. Sophia may not have set out to manipulate you, Daniel explained, but the dynamic that's developed is extremely unhealthy. You've given her complete power over your emotional state, your daily happiness, your sense of self-worth. That's not connection. That's dependency. So what do I